I'm rebuilding a Division II school for 10 years, but what if I told you they also went by the name Notre Dame? That's right, until the school shut down in 2024. There was a Notre Dame college, and what if being successful at the FBS level could have saved their program? The school had to close due to debt and declining enrollment. But we can fix that, forcing them to make the jump from Division II to FBS. At least if we're able to have some success, and we're starting out in the MAC conference. But if we're able to win it twice, we will be promoted to the Big Ten. To save the second Notre Dame, I've laid out these 6 challenges we have to complete in 10 years, or else the college is gone. And this is a school that's literally starting out as a 57 overall. One rule that I've set for this rebuild is I'm only allowed to recruit prospects that are interested in playing for us. But imagine telling everybody you got a scholarship offer from Notre Dame, and it's this. If you compare the real Notre Dame to our school, we are significantly behind them, pretty much a polar opposite. And that's why the first challenge we'll be trying to accomplish in this rebuild is going to be beating the Irish. Now, I'd love to say with this starting roster, there's some pieces to get excited about, but every single position group is just atrocious. So I'm not sure it's even worth getting to know players like quarterback Jared Merling, because half of his accuracy skill caps are already locked out. I think that's the reason a lot of these 3-star quarterbacks are willing to give us a chance though, because they want the opportunity to take over as the starter. There's instant playing time that could be on the line, though unfortunately none of these guys were gems. And it looks like I can only recruit 1 3-star receiver for them to throw the ball to. With only 350 hours to spend a week on recruiting, this is how I'm going to split it up. There are a couple players that were able to put 60 hours into a week. And that's not because of me. I am a level 1 head coach, but our offensive coordinator does have some nice abilities. Our future is very dependent on how we recruit, but whenever it comes to us playing these games, this is also pretty crucial. And it might not make a difference in season number 1, but by the time we're winning championships, it will. Whenever I start these rebuilds with these really low overall teams, I'm expecting to have no success. But to be fair, this is a Division II football program we're talking about, so I'm proud we scored a touchdown. Our defense is going to be pretty rusty for a while though. And if we're losing to the other Notre Dame 76-7, it could be a while before we complete our first challenge. If you remember how bad our school grades are, you would know that it would literally not help us to try and hard sell on any of these prospects. And I think this first season's going to be pretty short as we sim through most of it. I'd be shocked if we won anything this season since we couldn't even score versus Minnesota. But our best chance is going to come against an FCS school. As a Division II team, we skip straight over this level of football, coming up to the FBS level instead, but they are still only 10 overalls better than us. And that's why I have just a sliver of hope. In fact, here we are in the second quarter, driving down the field. We're even able to complete some passes. That was a good spin. And Jared Merling might just be able to get this one done for us, though we're short. It is 3rd and goal, and if there is one play that's going to work for us in this scenario, it is letting Gregory get out there. But this isn't the first time this season we've been able to score a touchdown. The real problem is keeping up that momentum, and it's just not happened. For the rest of the game, we had no more offensive success. We ended up losing this one 44-7. And I know that the MAC conference isn't the best, but Kent State beat us 45-0. We're getting blown out by Buffalo and Eastern Michigan, who both just had 1 win at the time of playing them. So I feel like I can guarantee that this Division II school isn't winning a single game. For the prospects that we're chasing after though, up until this left tackle, we were having a lot of success. We've signed all of these guys, including a few gyms. And 2 of them come from the running back position, where both of them have 92 speed. It'll be interesting to see who ends up being better. Also, the 1 3-star receiver, a gym as well. Outside of that though, if I see we're losing battles, we should probably pull out since we're not going to come back, which I think has started to work out for us extremely well. We might not have had any success on the field, losing our last 5 games, but we kept it kind of close versus Ohio. And I can reassure you that Jared Merling will not be starting for us next season with 8 touchdowns and 26 interceptions. Part of that you could blame on our receiving corps, since everybody was like a 53 overall or lower, and then on the rushing side of things, he was actually our leading rusher over the starting running back. We were so bad in trailing by so many points almost the entire season that we only handed it off a few times to him. And you might think that I should fire both our offensive coordinator and our defensive coordinator, but I like the recruiting bonuses we get from Austin Young, so we're just going to get rid of this kid. In an ideal world, Cornell Gowen will choose our school over LSU, even though they're offering him to be their defensive coordinator. And it blows my mind he took the Notre Dame job over that one, but whenever he gets to our campus, he's probably going to be left disappointed. Right before Notre Dame College shut down, they only had like 1,400 students enrolled. So that's why we need to get this college to that level of success so more students want to enroll. To be honest, losing some of these players to graduation doesn't bug me too much, but that's because next year's senior class is going to have 40 players as a part of it. I should also point out, besides losing the battle for the left tackle, we lost one of the battles for a 2-star receiver. And I have no idea how good any of these quarterbacks are, but we have a real opportunity to make a splash in the transfer portal. What I've done for this transfer portal period is I've put quite a few players on the board. I'm not sure if we're going to get any of them, but the guys that have us in first place should commit. And there was even this 3-star receiver interested in transferring to our school that could be our highest overall. We might not have signed a full class of 35 players, players, but we filled it up with 32. I feel like that's enough for me. And we did get lucky finding one player with star development, cornerback Terrell Nix. He'll be helping us on defense, while offensively, I've recruited both of these quarterbacks, and it seems like Benshaw is going to be the better one. But time will tell there. Looking at our recruiting class ranking versus other teams in our conference, I feel like number 5 isn't too bad. It could be a bit challenging moving forward, considering all these players were interested in coming to our school. They have to be interested for us to go after them. But if we play better, we should be able to sign some better classes, and Keelan Benshaw comes in as a 72. We'll take a look at what his skill caps look like, but I think he's going to start over transfer Philip Rush, who's a senior. And we have leveled all the way up to level 11 after training results. Whenever you start a new coach, you're pretty much guaranteed to shoot up to that after the first season, but we have Coach XP speed set to slowest. So how I use these skill points is very important, and I think I want to go down the motivator tree. It's been a really long time since I've done this with one of my coach builds, so it's time to switch things up. As you can see, we've gotten at least tier 3 at every position besides running back. And then for special teams and kicker as well, I ignored it, but we're down to tier 3 because this means all of those positions will get off-season training boosts. That should help us a lot more with the next training results, since this one was disappointing. The highest overall we have on this team is a 77. And let's take a look at Keelan Benshaw. He has Magician as an ability, and he also has some really good accuracy skill caps. We've at least found the future at one position, though with all these seniors, we're gonna have to do it for a lot of other ones. And my main focus needs to be wide receiver. There was only one 3-star last year we could go after. This time around, there's 2 of them. Funny enough, the faster one with 91 speed ended up being a bust, while the kid with 86 speed is a gem. We'll see who ends up being better throughout their career, but these are the 6 players we'll be pursuing first. And my only goal for season number 2 is for us to get our first win. Probably won't come at Notre Dame, but it could come against FCS East. The one thing we do have going for us is we jumped up to a 73 overall. But let's not act like this Falcons roster is any good. We might stand a chance at pulling off the upset with our new quarterback, though. We're making catches. And imagine if this was the result that Keelan Benshaw got in his first game. That throws on target, we're getting a lead. Will it last, though? That is the real question. And I think we all knew what the answer to that was. We just haven't done anything else. The longer this game's gone on for, the more that they've scored, though they are throwing an interception right here. I just think by this point in the game, it is way too late for us to try and make a comeback. What the Fighting Irish have done really well is they've run a lot of man-to-man coverage. Right here, we're just getting the 4th down. But it's taken us so long to work it down the field, and on 4th down, we're not going to make that catch. I'd say that we're still a few seasons out from being able to take down Notre Dame, and it's going to be a miracle if we pick up a win throughout the entire season. On my end, it's going to be a lot of recruiting again. For you all, though, you won't see much, but you should probably notice that at Michigan, we lost by less than we did against Toledo. It really doesn't make much sense, but we have a better roster than the FCS school. So I brought out the blackout jerseys, and this team is playing well on all sides of the ball. Just the fact that they still haven't scored in the 4th quarter shows how much we've been locking them down. We have done it again. And I didn't know if we'd win the battle up front or not, but we have, which has really helped us. At the end of the day, we finished this one 35-0. I could have never asked for a better score than that. And it looks like of the freshman running backs, Cam Deere has taken over. Ideally, that level of success will continue throughout conference play. And even if teams like the Zips are beating us by 30 points, we won at Bowling Green. That is a 2nd win this season. It's enough to keep me happy. The expectation of jumping up to Division 2 from the FBS level was we'd be near the bottom of the MAC conference for the first 3 to 4 seasons. But we could avoid finishing in last place if we just win one of these final few games. It's not going to be against Central Michigan, though. They scored 21 points in the 2nd quarter. It kind of led to their win. And that's why in the background, I've just been focusing on signing these 3-stars. We can't sign too many with only 350 hours a week. But so far, we've been able to get everybody that we've wanted, and I think we're going to get these 7 defenders as well. Back to our actual games, though. 2 games left on the schedule. One is at Ohio. And we're going to lose this one 45-28, but we still have Kent State on our schedule. At the moment, we both share the bottom of the MAC conference. And this feels like a perfect opportunity to be just a little bit better than them, though they are 5 overalls better. They might be the Golden Flashes, but we're the one in those jerseys for this game. And I was hoping that we'd be able to shock them, but unless we pull off a huge comeback in the 4th quarter, it's not happening. Now, that was a pretty good throw, but we have a very long way to go. And it all starts with this 2-point conversion where their coverage just locked up. They would also score again after that, so we weren't coming back. But here's the thing, 2 wins is much better than the 0 that we got the year before. We also had a huge improvement at our quarterback play. Keelan Benshaw had 18 passing touchdowns with only 4 interceptions. receptions, not like the 28 we threw. And our quarterback wasn't our leading rusher this time either. Cam Deere got twice as many carries as we were able to put out last season. While on the receiving side of things, freshman Anthony Keglar took the leading role. All of the 3-star commits are continuing to flood in too. And taking a look at the playoff picture, one of the Notre Dames made it, just not Notre Dame College. It is time to say goodbye to all of these seniors though. Philip Rush has to be super upset. He transferred in to just sit the bench behind a freshman. And we lost a lot of our depth, but not many key pieces on offense, so I'm not too excited to try and add this receiver or this freshman running back to our team. The transfer portal just didn't have that much to offer to us this season, but I think there's a few players we should still sign. There are some tight battles, and we're also going to win these if we just remain in number 1. What I figured out as well is with some of our extra hours, we could go after a few more players. And for whatever reason, there are even positions like wide receiver where a couple other options have popped up. We ended up bringing in a class of 31 players where there was one battle that we lost, but it's because Bowling Green was beating us out whenever we started. And the players interested in signing for Notre Dame College were much better this season versus last year, because if I just scroll through the dev traits right here, you're going to see that we found 7 3-stars that have star development. This class was also ranked a little bit higher as the second best one in our conference. And I think we have set the foundation for a team that could emerge to be something super special a few seasons from now. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see how this team progresses, especially since we went down the motivator tab, so players should progress faster. But something that stuck out to me is James Mastrid, who sat on the bench as a quarterback and redshirted last year, has passed up Keelan Benshaw in overall. I'm not exactly sure what Keelan worked on during the offseason, but it doesn't seem like it was much. And it's not like he's lost his starting job or anything, but I do want to make sure that he plays a bit better, so we're going to unlock this tactician trait. And then we spent most of our coach points maxing out the quarterback stats. Now, when it comes to the new prospects that we can target, there's still no 4-stars interested in becoming a Falcon. But if we sign another large class this season, we're going to have to start being pretty picky in which players we actually bring in. The process I've been going through to build out these recruiting boards is pretty simple. I basically find 35 players interested in playing for Notre Dame College, then I offer all of them a scholarship. And every so often, like with Dave Casey, we're able to get an insta commit, which is actually super helpful. You can only get those whenever you're in first place on a prospect, and we tend to have some leftover hours, so we start to scout some of the skill positions, see if we can find some gems like Elijah Morris. And then the next week, we're able to divide our 350 hours across 6 or 7 players. Our school grades still haven't gone up, so I haven't even had to touch on hard sells. But at least our overall continues to rise, as we're now a 77. The start to this year is pretty brutal. We'll probably not play until this game against Kent State, just because I'm not expecting us to beat Notre Dame this year either. But maybe I should, because somehow we have upset Nebraska on the road in Sim. That was not expected. I'm sure Michigan's about to humble us. But no, we just beat them 31-28. What is going on with this Falcons team? 442 yards of offense. Jaden Davis played well for the Wolverines. It just wasn't enough. Keelan Benshaw was better. And all of a sudden, the expectation is now that I'm going to help us take down Notre Dame. All I can think of right now is if we're pulling off those upsets, how are we going to do in conference play? There's clearly something about this team that's clicking. On our first drive, we're in field goal range. And that's after holding the Fighting Irish to a field goal. Even with the bar bouncing everywhere, we're drilling it. The craziest part is as we get into this third quarter, we are actually in a tie 7-7 game, but we could get in here. It's unfortunate that we got caught, but the drives continued. We're down to the 2. And I think we need to utilize some motion to get Keelan Benshaw the ball in his hands. We actually have a lead over a top 10 team on the road, but they have been having a long drive down the field, and we can't get them off it on 3rd and 5. There's probably only a few possessions left in this game. They're bouncing off of our tackle to lose more yards. And we have a huge 3rd and goal to start the 4th quarter. All we need to do here is keep them out of the end zone, force them to kick a field goal, which we've done. And there's a chance that they shank this too, but they don't. In a perfect world, this drive will last forever and we could run out a lot of clock. But instead of one of our 2 blockers picking this player up, they instead blocked each other. We could be getting the biggest win in program history. It would mean so much, but our team is just not showing up. It's okay though. We still have a few minutes left on the clock to tie things back up. And we'll see if we can pass for anything on this 3rd down. That's going to be enough. If we could just finish this one off with a touchdown, that would be perfect. And at the moment, I truly believe that we're capable of doing that because Benshaw's playing out of his mind. This is not a situation where you play for overtime. This is a situation where you take what you can get. And you do do everything to put away the top 10 team before it goes to extra periods. We are not able to make hot routes though whenever we need to, which stinks. No protection. So it seems like we are going to be headed to overtime, except we're taking another sack and we fumble. We have way too many offensive linemen for Brown to have a spot on this team next season. And even after this game, I'm going to find a way to get rid of him, because if I can't hit this field goal, we're not going to overtime, but I do. To make things even better, I think we're going to score a touchdown on our first drive. And you can see how silent and shocked this crowd is. Now it is on us to get them off of the field, though. I wasn't able to lurk that ball, and they're already in. I think if we're going to stop the Fighting Irish, we have to be risky. I ran commit here. We still couldn't stop them. And they know that they can win the offensive line battle. Play action, though, isn't working out. We need a touchdown, and we need a 2-point conversion, which would allow us to leave this stadium as the better Notre Dame. But they're starting to play a little bit better defensively, and that's going to be tipped, almost picked. There's like no audibles or anything that can happen. Huge down right here. Offensive lines collapse. And that was off of sending 3 players. We were so close. I can't be upset about it, though. We battled so hard against Notre Dame. And if this team plays as well as it has to open up the season, who knows how good we could be. I'm not going to forget about our left tackle, though. Deontay Brown's going to have to learn a lesson. He is getting benched for the rest of the year. And then instead of cutting him, I'm going to move him over from left tackle to left guard, since he doesn't have the speed to be out there on the edge. But it's time to get back into some of these results, and in sim, we lost to USF. The Falcons might have come up short, but I always said I want to play against Kent State, where I'm hoping that this season I'm able to redeem myself. I believe that we're good enough to beat them, which is why I'm not surprised we're getting a touchdown off of this RPO. But where are things going to be sitting by the 4th quarter? It turns out not in the worst spot. We're only down by 3, but this halfback screen's busted. And at the moment, it's looking like we might not even get the ball back. On 3rd and 6, they're throwing it deep, but we can get the interception. I take it back. We have the football in our hands, and I don't want to go outside the end zone. Just like against Notre Dame, I don't want to go for the field goal here. I want the touchdown. You all saw why. And we've even been given a late hit penalty for 15 more yards. This is our chance to pick up another win this season. I believe that we can pull it off from this point. And we really lucked out in getting Keelan Benshaw with that first recruiting class. I film a lot of these rebuilds, and it is rare to find a quarterback like this, especially this soon, but he's going to take us all the way to the 2. I just felt like that was the right decision. We've been able to run some more time off of the clock, and we still have all 3 of our timeouts, but we're going to be on a 3rd and goal. The offensive line is the one part of this team that's driving me insane, so I was ready to escape. But we didn't make it, and I'm willing to go for this on 4th and goal. Man-to-man coverage, turn around, hang on. It looks like the ball is still in his hands. We've gotten the touchdown. They're upset. And that was an extremely risky call right there, but it pays off. We're getting our 3rd win of the season. There is literally nobody else I would want more than Keelan Benshaw right now, because I'm starting to believe that if this kid had a really good team behind him, he'd be capable of winning like the Heisman Trophy. We still have one game that we can hop into this season as well. We just have to choose it for the right time. But that time might not ever come, especially if we start losing a lot of matchups, because we just got beat by 21. As we approach the end of the season, you might not see us near the top of the MAC standings, but we are above both Kent State and Miami University by 2 games. And if we want to lock in not finishing at the bottom of our conference, we need to beat the Red Hawks at home. Ever since beating Kent State, the only win that we picked up was against Ohio by 42 points, but I think we could also beat Miami, Ohio here. And then if we somehow beat Toledo, we'd end up bowl eligible. That is a very strong start to saving Notre Dame College, considering this team was Division II a few years ago. And I never like getting down to this part in the field because it's hard to get into the end zone, though we're still able to. There was a point in this game where I thought we were just going to run away with it, but that's not necessarily the case with a minute left on the clock. The Red Hawks have the ball, only trailing by 3 points, and they're going to go straight at our safety, which has worked out for them. By the looks of it, they're about to send this game to overtime, though I just got dusted and we got to get the sack. They would then spike the ball, and I think it is worth it to test our corners right here, who are giving that up. That just blows my mind. They're going to end up settling for a field goal. And this game is headed to overtime, which I am just not a fan of. This was a game we should have easily won. But now we're having to work super hard for it, and on 3rd and goal, we're getting the interception. If we could pick up a block, it'd be over. That's a great start to overtime. Either way, though, we're just going to kick from here. And this is going to keep our chances of making it to a bowl game alive. Of course, we're still going to have to beat Toledo and Sim, but either way, that was a great win for us to get. And it's a shame that JR's a senior, because he was amazing at corner. The annoying thing about having to play the Rockets now is they've won most of their conference games. And it turns out we're not able to take them down. They had a lot more yards of offense, beating us by 14. Just like last season, though, I consider this exceeding expectations. So I'm perfectly okay with this. We actually finished above 3 different teams in our conference. We also have a chance to take another step forward by trying to get rid of our offensive coordinator, Austin Young. We could get better, but since we keep on performing better than we should, it would feel wrong firing him. That means he's going to be kept around for the time being. Keelan Benshaw did have 2 more interceptions than last season, but I think he had more rushing touchdowns as well. Cam Deere got injured at some point, and receiving-wise, Anthony Kegler was number 1 with Lonzo Glenn at number 2. Now, this was Lonzo's final season for us, but he wears number 39 as a receiver. Not a huge loss. And once again, the better Notre Dame's making it to the playoffs, but they're not winning. Unfortunately, though, with these graduation departures, we are going to have our first player entering the transfer portal. Dakota Owen just couldn't stick around, which is extremely unfortunate. This kid had star development and not many skill caps at all, but it's my fault. His main deal breaker was playing time, and I didn't get him onto the field enough. We simply had too many young running backs in that room, but this is the most options we've had whenever it comes to the transfer portal, and I'm actually choosing to go after none of them since all of them were supposed to be seniors. But I will say I found Phillip Miles to replace the running back that we lost, and he is even faster. We ended up signing everybody left on our board besides this right tackle. It's always an offensive lineman we lose out on, but Phillip Miles turns out to have star development, and he's not the only one. Alongside some of these other 3 stars, remember quarterback Elijah Morris? Well, he also has star depth. The number 1 player out of the state of Nebraska this season is probably going to be our future once these 2 quarterbacks end up leaving. And this doesn't even feel right to say, but Keelan Benshaw keeps on getting worse in overall versus James Mastrid, so I'm wondering if we should give him a shot. He's waited his time, he's sat on the bench, his accuracy stats are probably a bit better at the moment, but I know his abilities aren't as good. He's a lot slower. It's just whenever it comes to Keelan Benshaw, his accuracy still isn't upgrading, so he almost needs a redshirt season for it to progress. It doesn't really feel right to do this, but maybe we'll have a better season than 5-7. And the same thing is true over here for Cam Deere. We didn't redshirt him, and now he is slacking in overall behind some of the other players. We've also put ourselves in a very awkward position. We have 1 senior on this roster, and like no team needs, if we go after more than 5 players, we're gonna have to cut somebody. So my plan for this next recruiting class is if there's any 4 stars interested, we target them, but it looks like once again 3 stars are upper limit. If that's gonna be the case, we will only recruit players that turn out to be gems. And it's gonna be pretty interesting to see whether or not we're able to make a bowl game this year with this schedule. I truly believe that as an 82 overall team, we should. But I should mention that we are suffering from success in recruiting. We only have 350 hours to spend a week, but I have already found 7 gyms with a ton of other 3 stars to scout. 3 of those players happen to be running backs, and 2 of them happen to be quarterbacks, but most of them are athletes, so we could move them to other positions. And I think we're past the point where I'd need to hop into this game so we can win. The following week against Toledo, though, the Rockets would score 45 points against us. And I'm kind of curious on whether or not the Notre Dame College Falcons are able to take down the Fighting Illini. I have to consider this game as a little bit of a warm-up to playing against Notre Dame this season. I want to finally take them down. And as you can see, here in the 3rd quarter, it turns out we're better than I thought we'd be. The longer that this game goes on for, the longer we are able to maintain our lead. But every so often, we have some annoying drops like that, which means we have to drill another field goal. The Fighting Illini aren't in a good spot. They're going to have to get a lot on this 3rd and 13. And whether or not they pick up this 4th down is a pretty big deal, but they have thrown it straight to Pike. If we pitch it back, we would have had a faster player returning it. That almost went really far south. But fortunately, there's not too much to worry about as we've continued to run down the clock from there. By the time they got the ball back, they had a chance to score a touchdown, but nothing more than that. And that means that our new starting quarterback has us sitting at 2-1. The next weeks, we'd play teams like Missouri, Ball State, and Western Michigan, with the Tigers being the only one that could beat us. And that means even though Notre Dame is still a 90 overall, they're still a top 10 team at 6-1 going into this matchup. I feel kind of confident. It might finally be time for us to complete our first challenge. But if anything's going to differ from last year's game to this one, it's much more about the defense. Our offensive line's still not holding up too well. We've missed a field goal. And we haven't been able to make hot routes throughout this entire matchup. On 3rd down, though, we're going to pick it up. It is really a miracle that with a few minutes left in the 3rd quarter, we're still in this. But I have a feeling this drive's going to end with another field goal as well, unless we go for it on 4th and 3. We have got to convert right here. Our tight end's open. What happened? It really doesn't matter who's in at left tackle. They find a dumb way to just give up a free pass rush. That is so frustrating. With a couple minutes left, though, it's still not over. We're only down by 11. There is just a sliver of hope left on this roster. Though I've thrown it straight to him. It's an out of reach throw. And that was the game right there. We're not going to be able to get it back twice. I mean, I can do my best by run committing and getting stops, but we would have to score the fastest points of all time. I'm talking this drive can literally only be about 10 or 15 seconds. And there is only one way to make that happen. We throw it up, we try to make the aggressive catch, and that is going to work. I cannot believe it, but this game might not be over. Please don't be short. That literally just ruined everything. We didn't have time to have another 10 seconds run off of the clock. With only one timeout left, we're not going to be able to get a defensive stop to get the ball back now. And I don't know what I was doing with that 2-point conversion. We just have to hope this goes far enough, and it doesn't. That is going to be back-to-back seasons now falling short against Notre Dame. And it's starting to look like winning a MAC championship might be the easier challenge to complete first. If that's going to happen, though, we're going to have to take down teams like Central Michigan, who we actually play next. And this is going to be the final game of the season I can hop into. Before we do that, we should probably spend some of our coach points. I'm going over to the tactician tree. I'm going to make sure our offensive line plays better. I'm also going to give that same maxed out boost to all of our receivers and tight ends. And theoretically, that should have made our offense a lot better. Those type of boosts are not going to help out our defense, though, who's given up 31 points to Central Michigan as they're driving down the field now. There's only like a minute left, but if we can't hold them to a field goal, they're about to go in front. And that's not going to leave us much time to drive down the field and respond back with a touchdown of our own. This is one of the most important games of the season, and our offensive line still doesn't want to show up for it. We have to get this ball out quicker. This is a huge 4th and 2. There's no reason they should expect me to run. But fortunately, I saved all 3 of our timeouts, and then they passed on 3rd down. I thought we were at least going to get another chance to go down the field, even if there wasn't going to be much time left, but we did. And we're extremely unlucky because that quarterback that beat us is only a freshman. We have also run out of prospects to put points into because all these guys have signed. This guy won't consider our school because our playing style doesn't fit it, which stinks. And then I've also found 2 gyms at middle linebacker we're going to get. That's honestly a bigger class than we needed in the first place. If we don't beat Bowling Green, the rest of the year won't matter. But we came out on top by 7 points on the road, which gives me a little bit of hope. Sure, it's pretty unlikely we make it to the conference championship, but we could definitely become bowl eligible. And that would be incredible, but it means we have to beat 6-3 Buffalo. That didn't happen though. They doubled our score, and after Akron beat us by 5, which leaves 1 game left on our schedule, 0-11 Miami, Ohio. What I thought was a free win last year was a little bit harder than I expected, but they haven't beaten anybody. And if we're winning MAC Offensive Player of the Week, I'm assuming that we took them down. You know who they beat though? They beat the Falcons in overtime, 39-37. James Mastrud couldn't have played better than he did. He didn't turn the ball over. We didn't even have any fumbles. But our defense continues to hold us back, which is why I'm glad I signed both these linebackers, and then this corner finally got rid of his deal breaker to play for us. Our finish this year is like identical to last season, 5-7, the 4th worst team in the MAC. But I think we made some progress moving forward, and it's going to be hard to decide which quarterback to start next year. I mean, from the looks of it, our rushing game was a lot better. On the receiving side of things, Miles Chun stood out as a freshman. And with impact development, I'd love to say his overall is going to rise a bunch in the future, but his route running and hands can only go up so much more. We're still laying the foundation for successful seasons in the future though. There's 6 years left. And like I said, this team was only going to lose 1 player. We do have a couple options we could add to our team in the transfer portal, but I don't think it's worth it since our roster's full. And that might mean that we have signed our smallest class yet, but in my opinion, it's going to be the best one if all these kids are gyms. I'm expecting to see our first elite development, but it's not there. That's unfortunate. This class wasn't even ranked inside the top 100. And I can't help but smile looking at our training results going into year number 5. We're up to an 87 overall, and I think it's a legit 87 overall too. Now, James is still the higher overall quarterback. For whatever reason, Keelan's just not progressing forward. But I think I want to throw him back out there and see how he does, even if this accuracy isn't willing to go up. I also have to point out that we over-recruited. This is my fear. Now we have to get rid of 6 players. And it's not too hard to do right now. I've recruited players without scouting them much, so we have like 82 speed receivers. But moving forward, I'd like to have to avoid doing that again, so this class needs to be just as small as the last one. There's still no 4-stars interested in our school, but it's honestly understandable. We haven't made it to a bowl game. And I'm so confused right now because I just realized if I search by top 10 prospects and then filter by position, it seems like there's only a few 3-star receivers that would consider us. But then when I go back to the search function and do receiver again in the top 10, it pops up a lot more 3-star receivers that we have the option to go after. I'm hoping this leads to us finding some really good talent, but I'm wondering why it wouldn't show all those players up on the first filter. I feel like I've just missed out on players I didn't know were even interested in Notre Dame College, but you'll see there's 3 3-star gyms at receiver, then another running back. But outside of that, no other gyms so far. Looking at our schedule, we'll probably play against Iowa, against Notre Dame, and then one of these conference games. And I just have to hope that we start the season off against Western Kentucky in the right way. Well, it was tight down to the final seconds, but we pulled away by 1 point. And assuming we start MAC play beating Kent State, we're going to be 2-0 to open up the year. This is exactly the type of performances I was looking forward to. We had double the amount of yards on offense. I am absolutely positive that Keelan's going to play well. And it's taken us almost no time to find a couple more athlete gyms to target. target. From this point moving forward in this dynasty, I can only assume that this roster will just keep getting better. But if we really want to take that next step forward, building a championship level team, we need to have better prospects interested playing for us. Just the way we have gone into Kinnick Stadium and competed so far, I think that's going to get us some decent attention, though that was deflected into a pick to end the half. They better not return this for a touchdown. And moments like that where we basically just passed up on scoring points could really come back to hurt us. We're on a 3rd and 7 now, down by 3 with about 6 minutes left. And we have continued to move it down the field, but I'm not sure how much longer we'll be able to keep this up for. It has been a pretty rough second half for us, though if our drag's getting open underneath, we're now at the 5. And it feels like we have a little bit of momentum going in our favor as we take it in. Now, if we could just get them off of the field, that would really change this game. I thought I could lurk that right there. They're just making superhero plays. And it is what it is. They're going to run the ball and they're going to get like 5 or 6. We know what they really need though, and that's a touchdown, which is going to be a little bit harder to get after we penetrated that hole perfectly. On this 3rd and 11, they're probably going to want to go underneath. I was ready for the quarterback run. I saw it coming. From here on out, I can leave spies out there on the field. I was hitting triangle. But we got absolutely 0 animations for interceptions, and right here, it's underthrown. It's not going to matter. If we're still going to win this game though, before overtime, we have a long way to go. Make sure we pick up the first down. They just missed their tackle. And I still have all 3 of our timeouts left, which is going to come up super big. Now, if we really wanted to, we could probably run the ball. I'm going to scramble for the first down. And I'm going to mix in a halfback draw. I highly doubt they're going to expect it. Then the clock chewed farther than I thought it would. But we still have some time to get into the end zone, and our slants right there. We have it. Unless they pull off the luckiest 76-yard play of all time, we are going to take down a top 25 team on the road. We can snag that pick. And what a way to end this game. Notre Dame College is starting to put themselves on the map. I'm hoping we can crack the top 25 in the next few years. And it seems like we've returned to being better just by putting Ben Shaw back out there. This might just be the year that we beat Notre Dame. Of course, we have to get past FCS Midwest first. But that's not a problem. Your Falcons won 51-3, and now Notre Dame is ranked number 1 in the country. I couldn't tell you how they've managed to pull this one off, especially since they already have 1 loss. But it seems like everybody that's up near the top right now is already struggling. With the way that we're currently playing, I have a feeling we're going to be able to add on to that. But if that's actually going to happen, our offensive line's going to have to play better this year, and it seems like we're getting more time. With about 8 minutes left in this game, I think we're in a pretty good spot. But like always, I've jinxed things. On a 3rd and 14, we just got that ball out in time. We're going to juke and not get enough. But they're saying a 51-yard field goal's in range. I don't know how much I'd consider this in range, considering how fast that meter was moving, but we're still going to hit it. Now the real challenge lies in getting Notre Dame off of the field. They want to throw it straight to us. And from there, if it's up to me, they're never going to see the football again, but we have to keep getting first downs. If we don't get this 3rd and 3, we might even go for it, though we're going to pick it up. And we are really playing well at the moment. They are not ready for the quarterback run. The blocks are holding up. We're down to the 23. This is how you close out a game. I mean, they're still going to have a few timeouts left after the 2-minute warning. But this one's going to be over if they can't stop us from getting 1 more first down. I am a little bit surprised they've held off on the timeout so far, but I'm sure they'll call after this. And they would get us to a 3rd and 9 where I have a feeling we're not going to make it far enough. We needed 1 other play to be able to run out the rest of the clock. It's unfortunate, but our defense can still step up. And I know it's asking a lot out of them, but they're taking a drag, and I see why. They're getting a lot of yards out of it. After spiking the ball, there's 24 seconds left on the clock. We are going to get a sack, though. Never mind. They broke it. They still have a chance. I'm sorry, but physically, if a dude this big has you wrapped up, you're not just breaking that free. That is one of the craziest animations I've had to deal with on this game, though we seem to be okay still. And the only way Notre Dame wins this now is if they have a miraculous play right here, but they've thrown it straight to me. We're going to seal the win, beating the number 1 team. It's going to feel good to just take this knee. And after 5 years of the rebuild, we have completed our first challenge. If we're going to save Notre Dame College, we still have a long way to go in turning them into a powerhouse. But with all the non-conference games out of the way, I like our odds of going undefeated throughout the entire season. However, I should have known something would go wrong. I just started simming to get through the year, and we dropped 2 games in conference play to Michigan schools. With just 2 more conference games left on our schedule, we're currently 4-2. But that's not good enough in the MAC this year for like the first time, because both of these schools are undefeated in conference play. We need to play against Toledo though, so we simmed against Miami, Ohio, where we got the win. And it looks like Akron lost a game, so if they lose again, we might be able to have the tiebreaker over them. We didn't play them head to head, so I'm not quite sure what it would be. But to even have a chance at making the MAC championship first, we have to beat Toledo on the road. I'm pretty sure that the Rockets have given us a load of issues in recent years, but I can't say that they have in this game so far because they simply have not been able to stop our offense. We're scrambling, we're about to put up 30, and the second half just started. To get to 30 though, we actually need to convert on the 2-point conversion. I don't know why they didn't have a quarterback spy out there, but Keely and Benshaw torched their D all day with runs like that to get us this win. The best part about him as well is because we redshirted him, he still has one more year, and I think his accuracy will finally have to improve. But take a look at this. We're ranked inside not just the top 25, but the top 20. Now, most of the time, that'd give us a shot at making it to the playoffs by winning our conference championship, but we didn't have a good enough record to make it to the MAC championship. So we've just had to wait to find out what bowl game we're going to make it to, but it should pop up right here. It's against Coastal Carolina. It's the Cure Bowl. This is actually a great matchup for our first bowl ever. We average 11 more points per game, and we should be able to take them down. I will say, it's kind of crazy to me that we have a chance to go from being 5-7 last year to then 11-2 this season. But that's how fast college football can change, and you can regress just as quickly as you got good. Now, so far against Coastal Carolina, I have seen absolutely nothing that worries me. I think we're going to be able to blow them out. But I was never expecting us to dominate as much as we have. It's 42-0. That's right. This is an extremely lopsided bowl game. But I don't know what the committee that chose this expected. They put a 6-6 Sunbelt team against a 10-2 roster. Keely and Benshaw enjoyed the matchup though. He made his season stats look even better. And I think we made the right decision rolling with him. He might have had 9 interceptions, but he also had 43 passing touchdowns. And on the rushing side of things, not that many yards, but we still did all right. The main focus has to go over to our receiving core. Sophomore receiver with 12 touchdowns, Tavares Alley leading the way, but we also had this senior receiver with 15 touchdowns, another senior performing well. And I'm not sure how I missed it, but Anthony Keglar got up to a 91 overall. His skill caps were great. Ever since we signed him to Notre Dame College, he has consistently been one of our best receivers. And I believe if we're ever able to win a championship, he could have been the leading #1 receiver on that team. In the final top 25 polls, there's going to be a team like 10-5 Boston College, who lost a third of their games ahead of us, but I'm still okay with finishing at number 16. And not only is Anthony Keglar getting some draft hype, but we're also seeing our tight end Barry Stockton getting that same projection, along with a couple seniors we're going to be missing a lot. Then there's cornerback Vince Ou. You probably remember him from last year. He kept having the deal breaker for playing style. Now he wants to transfer out because of it, but he's gone for good. It was bound to happen at some point anyway. Alongside both these players going in the second round, we also had our center get drafted. And take a look at some of our school grades now. With pro potential being an A-, I'm sure there's some players that would also love to play for Notre Dame College, not just Notre Dame. I mean, you're already seeing that with the transfer portal period. We have so many options compared to previous seasons. And Martin Rich could be the first 4-star that we ever get, but I think he's going to be a hard battle to win on. Not everything's going the way that I was hoping though. Building out this board, I noticed something, and you might too. As you can see, a lot of the hours on these defensive players have gone down to 50. That can only mean one thing. Our offensive coordinator, Austin Young, has stuck with us, but we lost our defensive coordinator and he was replaced by this guy. Without some of the normal recruiting bonuses that I'd be getting, it's made recruiting a lot tougher. I'm not sure how many of these transfers we're going to actually sign, as I've just been guessing hard sells. But I know I did pretty well. A 4-star Martin Rich, the highest rated transfer that we went after, committed to our school. There were always going to be some of these battles that we lost, but we went after a lot of transfers. I think we ended up signing more transfers than we did 3-star gyms. And this class of 22 targets has turned out to be the best class that we've ever put together, because there's a lot of guys with star dev. We even found an athlete quarterback with elite development. It's our first 3-star with elite. And I think I counted like 9 total players with star development, but it only gets us the number 40 class. I feel like for only signing a bunch of 3-stars and 1 4-star though, that's a pretty high rating. And since we focus so much on making sure all of our players are motivated, that they're improving in overall, our development's been incredible. We just got to tier 3 for our running backs, but I think it's about time that we make our defensive line play as good as they possibly can. I'm gonna save the other coach points that I have. And the reason for that is without our defensive coordinator being a recruiter, I might need to dip into this tree myself. Now, I will point out, there were some players whenever it came to training results that didn't develop the way I was hoping throughout their career. Cam Deere is one of them, but when you look at our full roster over all the seasons we've spent so far, this is perfect going into season number 6. It turns out Keely Benshaw was never able to be the better quarterback on paper, but I think his accuracy stats had to have gone up at least a little bit, and why didn't he ever max this out? Whenever it comes to player progression, there's some stuff I still don't understand in this game, but we do have to cut 9 players because we brought in so many transfers. And this is going to be hard to do, but if I know somebody isn't going to start for us and we have a decent backup, we'll have to get rid of of them, including James Masterrich. The same situation's gonna go for Cam Deere, so you're probably gonna see some seniors that never made it to graduation. And after dealing with all of that, I can officially say that we've hit the halfway point in this rebuild. We're halfway there to hopefully saving Notre Dame College. But just taking a look at team needs, taking a look at the players interested in coming and playing for the Falcons now, I think we're only gonna go after 4 stars or better. There is no telling whether or not we're actually gonna be able to sign these guys though, with most of them only having 50 hours a week on them. And when it comes to our first game of the season, we have a little bit of a warm-up. That's exactly what we needed though, winning 55-0 versus FCS East. Now we have Notre Dame that we're of course gonna play. Looking at the rest of our schedule, Notre Dame will be the hardest game. And ideally, we'll prove we're the better Notre Dame 2 years in a row. This is the first time that we've actually gotten to host this game, but our offense has been extremely disappointing up until this play right here. We're getting down inside the 10-yard line. And I can tell you right now, the Fighting Irish's defense is extremely good, but they're not going to hold us here. We finally given our home fans something to cheer about. But the longer this game's gone on for, we just can't overcome the deficit. Our blocking was atrocious on that last play, so even if we do have someone open, which I just saw, I was going to make sure we ran the ball. And that makes this a massive 4th and inches where we are going to get enough. I think we could also get a touchdown out of this play if they're in man-to-man coverage, which they are running. Their cornerbacks ran into each other, and Davis is going to go all the way. We missed the extra point, though, in sim, so getting this defensive stop is so clutch. We needed that big time. That right there is what you call lockdown coverage. There is still a little bit of a chance for them, but they'd have to prevent us from picking up a first down, and they have so many spies out there. I think we should just run it up the middle, then settle for a field goal as we don't get enough. But we've hit much harder kicks with this kicker. This should not be a problem as that is in. They've also spent so much time barely moving the ball down the field. This could be the final play, and that means we're going to be the better Notre Dame 2 seasons in a row. Talk about a great 4th quarter from Keelan Benshaw. And my hope is if he can keep on carrying us up the polls, he could be the first player that we have as a first-team All-American. If we're going to make it to the MAC championship this year, though, I can't play a bunch of non-conference games, which is why I decided to simulate against the Bearcats, who we just beat by 34 points. During some of our other first games, we'd start to pick up 4-star commitments as well, which is the first time that we've brought in 4 stars besides that transfer last year. And let me tell you, during one of our weeks where we had a bye, we had an extremely good week. Of the 10 4-stars that we have on our board, we have signed 6 of them. We still have yet to lose a battle. And the week before, I did sim against Toledo, who was 1-3 at the time, but we only beat them by 4 points, so we probably have to play some of these upcoming games. At the moment, it seems like there's a lot of pretty good teams inside the MAC, and Akron's just one of them. This one's on the road against an 85 overall roster. Now, just going into this matchup, we are the number 12 team in the country, so we have a target on our back, and I simply don't plan on losing. It's gonna be a 4th and long, but I don't kick field goals from this spot pretty well anyway, and we're gonna catch it. Ever since that moment, I think we have maintained our lead in this game extremely well, and that gives us a 17-point lead with only 4 minutes left. We would just continue to run away with it from there, beating Akron 38-14. That's a pretty good win, but there's a lot of games left on our schedule, like this one against Bowling Green, that I still have to sim. I figured at some point we'd probably pick up a loss, but that was not the case. We ended up beating all these teams pretty comfortably, and there was a ranked opponent left on our schedule. That is right, both us, Central Michigan, and even Buffalo are carrying the MAC conference at the moment. We're all ranked inside the top 25. And if we ever want to get promoted to the Big Ten, it is so crucial that we win this conference twice. That would make getting into the playoffs a lot easier. At the moment, if we lose just one game, we're probably not going to get there. And as we enter this 4th quarter, I'm a bit nervous because we're trailing to Central Michigan by 5 points, but we're also going to get into the end zone. Their lead's been erased. We just slipped right by him. I probably should have gone out of bounds or slid, but Keelan Benshaw being aggressive paid off for us, and the RPO works. However, it was never going to be that easy for us. They were able to respond back. We have enough time to get this one out, but it was off target, and we're in a position where we have got to get the football back, and the tackle isn't going to happen. That was worst case scenario right there. I'm not sure how you miss, but we know the run's coming, so we can be prepared for it like we were right here. 3rd and 12 is a really big deal, though. They're going to try to get in field goal range, and if they're coming out in a punting formation, they clearly felt like they didn't get enough. Here we go, though. We have about 2 minutes left on the clock to drive down the field versus them. This is a great start, and you can tell that they're already starting to back up their coverage. Man-to-man is not going to work for Central Michigan, though. Justice Davis goes all the way inside the red zone. We deserve to have an undefeated regular season to make it to the college football playoffs with this team, and I can promise you right now, we're trying to take off some clock before we score. I really don't want Central Michigan to have a chance to respond. Our receivers should always get open right here, but they still have their timeouts. They've already been moving it down the field versus us, and we needed this sack so bad. Things are getting flipped around with our defense, though, right before snapping it. It's going to lead to a huge game, and it is now 3rd and 1, where if they complete this pass in bounds with no timeouts left, they're in a lot of trouble. They're going to have to throw up a Hail Mary. We guarded the sidelines well right there. It is going to come down to this, and that's a terrible throw. On the final play of the game, you put it 45 yards away from the end zone. And I don't think I have ever seen the computer put the ball in that bad of a spot with the game on the line. At least it works out for us, though. We remain undefeated. And I'm sorry, but there's just no way that 2-9 Ohio takes us down. We ended up winning this game 37-10. And our final game of the regular season is against Kent State. As you can see, we've made it to the MAC championship playing Central Michigan again. And we took down the Golden Flashes 28-16. We even closed out a recruiting battle for this 4-star right tackle, which means we signed 9 of the 10 4-stars. This was the only one we couldn't get. And you can't expect me to out-recruit Deion Sanders. We've also been bringing in a ton of athletes that we're probably going to move around to positions like cornerback. For just recruiting players interested in coming to Notre Dame College, I'm extremely happy with how things have turned out. But if we want to win our first FBS conference championship, we're going to have to play well for one more game. Headed into this matchup, I think either way we're going to make it to the college football playoffs. But a win means we'd be seated much higher, which is why I'm happy with the position we're in right now. Assuming we're able to finish off this drive, it's going to be extremely challenging for Central Michigan to come back from that point, because they're going to need to score 14 points, and they've only been able to get 10 in this game. Sure enough, though, they've marched themselves down the field into a 4th and 5 where they just had a dot. They'd followed up with a touchdown, and now they have us on a 3rd and 22. But we have yet to attempt a deep ball in this rebuild, and that's the first one we're getting. Miles Chun simply won the battle off of the line, but we're going down. And there's some pressure to drill this 50-yard field goal, but there shouldn't be a problem with it. After literally returning our kickoff, though, guess who has the ball again, still trying to close this game out? At the very least, we're going to need to pick up one more first down, and I'm just running with it. We're going to fight for it. We're getting more than that. But Keelan Penchall just took a shot on that last play. They probably should have forced the fumble against us. We're just going to hand it off, and right here we're to the crib. There's no way that anybody else is catching us. But I'm telling you, Central Michigan made it so hard to secure the win still. They just kept getting like 80-yard touchdowns, which makes this trophy mean a lot more. And apparently that has been enough to award me the Coach of the Year award. Our defensive coordinator I wasn't happy about hiring also was the best coordinator, and we might not have been in the running for the Heisman Trophy, but I'm sure there's going to be another award winner popping up. Amani Coffey, our senior right end. We only got one of the 5 we needed out of this season, but that's a first-team All-American. And this feels like just the start of Notre Dame College taking over. Being in the college football playoffs, we're bringing some more eyeballs to this school. And I know that we played a weaker schedule than some of these teams above us, but I wish we'd be ranked above 10-3 Florida, who had 3 more losses. I'll give EA their credit though, that's pretty realistic. We have drawn the Ducks. And they are always so good in Dynasty, I wanted to avoid them and we could have played Boston College instead. It is what it is though. We have Keelan Benchall as our quarterback, who had a great season, only 5 interceptions. On the rushing side of things, 5 touchdowns, and this is also the most rushing yards we've had yet. But what you've seen on our offense so far has just been a bunch of seniors, so I'm happy to say every single one of these receivers will be back next year. And Justice Davis is having a breakout year for just being a 3-star recruit, but he can only improve so much more. With this game against Oregon, we're about to find out how good we really are. And it's hard to tell because the only other roster we've played that was as good as theirs was Notre Dame, and I'm pretty sure they just went 7-5. We are also Notre Dame though, Notre Dame College, which has probably made this video super confusing. It's going to be 21-0 just off the rip because I've thrown an interception for a pick 6 off a wide receiver screen. We should have been blocking that kid. I mean, we had somebody right there trying to hold him, but he gave him a little elbow bump and let him brush by for the interception. And the longer this game has gone on for, the worse it's gotten for us, but we could get our first touchdown in the 3rd quarter. There's our freshman receiver, Justice Davis, holding on. But we have a long way to go if we're going to win this matchup versus them, and they are literally just doing whatever they want. At the end of the day, what we figured out was we were just not ready for a playoff appearance like this. We didn't score enough points. I thought our roster was going to stack up a little bit better than this. We have to get into the end zone right here to still have a slight chance. And when I say slight chance, I mean lower odds than what the Patriots had when they were down 28-3 to the Falcons. We needed like 2 onside kicks, 2 Hail Mary touchdowns. It wasn't ever happening. But at least the final score looks a bit more respectable, and we lost to the team that won the national championship. There are a lot of players on this roster that are going to be leaving us though. Projected 1st-round picks, including our center that I highly doubt we're going to convince to come back. And I feel like if we had some more tacticians as coaches, this roster could have been so much better than it was. I think that is my sign to continue maxing out this tree. We're going to spend 40 of our 45 coach points making sure our defensive players are all getting as many boosts as they can. And by the time I'm done with that, running back's the only position where we still have nothing. We still have 4 years to win a championship, which is plenty of time. But I'm starting to feel the pressure of saving this program, and there's still some 4-star transfers that would be interested in considering our school. Outside of those 3 kids, kids though, the drop-off happens extremely fast. And I'm honestly stunned that I was able to bring all 3 of them in, but I guess they're hard sells correctly. When it came to dev traits, there was nothing too exciting in that class, just a few star devs, but you're gonna see we almost signed a top 10 class. And this is where we really start to separate ourselves from the rest of our conference. Whenever it came to all the athletes that we brought in as well, I moved a lot of them to cornerback, to free safety, to halfback. But if any of them's my favorite, it's gotta be Calvin Ben, because he goes from a 67 to a 75 overall blocking tight end. I'm doing my best to build a strong future for the Falcons. I think we're gonna have multiple players get drafted for the 2nd year in a row. But unfortunately, I keep getting put in these positions where I have to cut a few of the players that we have. If we're gonna maintain this level of success though, just looking at our team needs, I can tell that we have got to recruit some more defensive players. And I am waiting for the day that we have a 5-star interested in our program, that we have a top 3 prospect that wants to come here, but it's still not happening. Of the 6 4-star gyms I was able to find through scouting though, 4 of them are offensive linemen, 1 of them's a linebacker, and the final one's a quarterback who is 93 speed. I'd love to have Logan on the team, but if I'm gonna put any points into recruiter, it's probably gotta be for offensive line, since there's so many of those players that we need to go after. My hope is that in the long run, we're able to build an incredible offensive line, which is really gonna set the foundation for one of the best offenses. And I think it's safe to say this schedule is gonna be tougher than what we had last year, because we're playing at Notre Dame, and then we also have to play at number 3 Michigan. With how good our roster is as well, it doesn't feel great to go out there with an 82 overall quarterback. But Elijah Morris has not progressed forward the way I thought the star dev quarterback would. It's the same problem with accuracy, skill caps not filling up. His speed isn't the fastest. And we're about to find out what type of effect that's going to have on this roster. Coming from Cleveland, Ohio, that's where Notre Dame College is. I don't think this is too far away. But it is a really tough matchup for us, so I'm not surprised that we're losing with 5 minutes left. This is a huge 4th and 5. We were able to get open there, and we're also going to roll out, hoping that eventually our slant can get some separation. These Michigan cornerbacks are just extremely talented, except we found the open space. Talk about a great throw right there. If they don't pick up this 3rd and 8, they'll probably punt the football back to us as well. And at the moment, it's looking like we're about to take down the number 3 team in the country as we run for the 1st. They have 3 chances to stop us. We're picking up like 4 yards here. And our new starting running back, Phillip Mines, has the shifty ability at gold, so I know he's going to be fun to move around with. He's going to get us the 1st. This is exactly how I wanted to open up the year. And I'm hoping that Notre Dame College can get a little bit more respect, since we're beating an opponent like Michigan who was ranked so high. I mean, there's no question in my mind. We should win the MAC and become a part of the Big Ten next year. But until that happens, I want us to get respect, and that's hard to have whenever UMass beats us by 5 points. That result was the last thing I was expecting, but Notre Dame is 0-3, so I think we can skip playing them this year. Sure enough, we took them down by 25 points, and as we continue to get better, I don't want to face the same teams every year. Even with that loss to UMass, I'm expecting us to cruise through conference play. But if there's anything that we've actually been able to cruise through, it's recruiting. We still have yet to lose a recruiting battle, and we've signed 10 4-stars already. There's still another 6 battles I'm trying to close out, but that's it for the prospects that are interested in coming here. And now we can recap all the games I've simmed. We somehow lost at 4-3 Buffalo, but we've beaten everybody else. I think we're still going to be able to make it to the MAC championship because we have Miami, Ohio on our schedule, but we have to make sure we don't lose again. And even if we do all that, I think a playoff spot's going to be out of our reach. After just getting by Western Michigan by 1 point though, and beating Bowling Green by 7, all of a sudden we're ranked inside the top 10. That's right, we have somehow stumbled our way back into success, but we are outside of the conference championship at the moment. And the only way we're getting in is if we take down the Redhawks. To my surprise though, we've struggled against them. We're trailing with 6 minutes left. And Elijah Morris has not turned out to be the quarterback that I thought he was going to be whenever we first signed him, though if he can put this ball in the right spot, we'll be better off. I know for a fact that this team is not good enough to win a championship, that's for sure. But even with PI, we were able to catch that touchdown. Now for the 2-point conversion, wait for our slant to get open and throw it. And we simply just have to get them off of the field. It's a halfback screen, we're good. It might have taken us all game, but it seems like we're starting to figure things out, though we cannot afford to take a sack right here. Throw on the run over to Ali. The senior's able to bring it in. And I can already tell this is going to be wide open for us to catch it and then run for a first down. We have full control of this game with a couple of minutes remaining. But no matter what, Miami, Ohio will have a chance to get the ball back. Considering the fact they've had 3 straight incompletions though, it doesn't really matter, except we just whiffed on 4th and 10 How did they get that? I thought Williams was about to pick him off, but he couldn't. So we have to get a field goal in the next 41 seconds, and we might be able to beat them deep as well, as we're going right over to Allen. A field goal is not good enough at this point. I want the touchdown. I want to avoid overtime. And it's seeming like a real possibility. All we have to do is roll out, put that over the cornerback's head, but they were able to knock the ball loose, so we're going to try a run instead. They probably thought we were passing again. This one's come down to the wire, but we're going to come out on top. At least I felt pretty confident saying that until they got all the way down to our 30-yard line. We basically just have to drop everybody back, hope that they don't catch this ball. I mean, there's so many dudes over there, and I think that should put us in the MAC championship. The only thing that could mess this up now is if we somehow lost our last regular season game, and I still have one I can hop into, so we might as well play at Toledo. If we're gonna lose this matchup, I want to make sure that it's because of me. And it looks like on the other side of the 2-minute warning, we had full control of this game, but we shouldn't have given up that 4th down. It's opened the door for them to come back, even if it's not likely, and at least that hit right there would seal our win. That's gonna get us what we wanted, into the MAC championship against Ball State. And I wasn't expecting to see them here, but I guess they had the tiebreaker over both Miami, Ohio, and Akron. We've also risen all the way up to number 6 with 2 losses, which is higher ranked than we were undefeated last year, showing that we've earned a lot of respect. But maybe some of those old AP voters are just confused, since the other Notre Dame went 6-6 this year with this roster. I don't know why they're struggling so bad, but I'm okay with taking over as the better one. And if we can win this game, all of a sudden we're playing in the Big Ten next season. Well, if we're up by 24 points with 2 minutes left, I think that's how it's going to work out for us. And that was an easy way to finish this off. We've pretty much just surpassed every team in our conference. Nobody's given us very competitive games, except when we sim, of course. And why was Jason Morse our player of the game? That's our backup quarterback that's out there on the field. And it turns out that Elijah Morse is going to be out for the next week, but that's actually not the end of the world. We're the 3 seed in the playoffs again. We have a bye, so he'll be back, but a couple players with broken toes won't. And as the number 5 team in the country, I'm expecting us to have some first-team All-Americans, but there's only one, Daryl Meredith. Those have been hard to come by, but every year we seem to knock off a challenge. We only have a few left. And from a quarterback perspective, Elijah Morse is a step back from what we were working with. Twice as many interceptions, not as many passing yards. He also isn't as good of a rusher. But I'm more concerned on why these 2 players are splitting carries so much. I wanted to see Phillip Miles stand out. He is shifty, and then Justice Davis, number 1 receiver again. Our first playoff game is going to be against Syracuse. They're the lower seed. They won. And just looking at the rest of the bracket, they're probably the worst team that's still in it. We even average more points per game than them, but we have to make sure that we don't lose. Because if we want to be respected as we enter the Big Ten, we need to have a playoff win under our belt. This game's already felt a lot different than the one against Oregon last year, mainly because Syracuse simply isn't that good. We've turned around to go all the way to the 1, and I'm trying my hardest to end this first half up 14-3. We might need to do this through the air though. They were ready to stop the run. We're going to try to scramble here, just have to throw it away. And I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to go for it on 4th and goal where we got open. Ever since that moment, we've just held on to our 2-possession lead. And it's been a pretty uneventful second half, but if we get this first down, it's over. I really didn't see this team winning a playoff game, but I guess it shows that Notre Dame College is ready to join the Big Ten and keep on improving. We're actually starting to save this school. But now we have to face off against number 2 USC. We have also lost our defensive coordinator, which means we have to find a new one to hire. And I think we're going to sign Devin Toon just because last season might be the last year I really recruit. We've already built up our great foundation, a solid roster. These are the 4 teams left in the playoffs. And the Falcons are one of them, but are we going to have what it takes to win it all? The way that this one's setting up, I'm feeling the same way that I did before we played Oregon last year. And the reason for that is USC's offense averages 10 more points per game than us, but we're only down by 3. We've actually played against them extremely well. If we hit this field goal, things are going to be tied up with 7 minutes left. And getting them off the field one more time could be all that it takes to put us in a much better spot. You're not running for that first down, buddy. We're also driving against them pretty well so far. Look at how quick our running back feels sometimes. And that's just the effect of having a running back that has the shifty ability. You can move around anywhere. We have control of this game, but we're going to have to get a first down, or else we're going to be stuck kicking a field goal, which I'm probably going to have to throw on the run. We have someone open. What? I'm sorry, but this is pure cheating from EA at this point. And now we're going to have to rely on our defense to stop USC. The worst part is they've already made it pretty far down the field versus us. We got that ball to pop out, and I thought they were about to score a touchdown right there, but we're clamping. As long as they don't pick up this 3rd and 13, they're going to have to kick a field goal. We're going to get the interception right there. They threw it into like triple coverage. They're looking like me, and we're breaking free for the pick 6. Now 25, you could catch us right here, but let us have our moment. We deserve this. Somehow we are moving on to the national championship, and it's against the #1 team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. I wasn't expecting us to make a run this far, but my goal was to turn a Division II team into a powerhouse, and we could do that by winning a championship now. Joining the Big Ten might make it hard for us to find ourselves in this position again soon. So I was really hoping that we wouldn't be down by 21 points as we start the fourth quarter, but we have forced a fumble. There's a chance. It's not a great chance, especially being on a 3rd and 18. You can just see how fast they're getting to us. And it's probably dumb to go for it in this position, but I felt like we had no choice. Those plays sum up this entire game. We simply were not good enough to beat Georgia. And we didn't get embarrassed as bad as TCU did, but it wasn't pretty. We got so close with this team to just lose some more talent to graduation to the NFL, and we even have another player trying to transfer out, but I think we can convince him to come back. I just feel like with both of our best safeties going on to the NFL, next year's defense won't be as solid. And when it came to the final 4 stars that we were going after on our board, there were 2 of them that we weren't able to sign. There are plenty of players interested in coming to our school through the transfer portal, though, that we can target. And of these 7 players, I think we'll be able to sign 4 or 5 of them. The key to this period is getting their hard sells correctly and guessing right, but sometimes I whiff and I can miss super badly. That's exactly why I never expect to sign every transfer, but we got the freshman 4-star running back. And we also got Ben Bostic, a 4-star sophomore receiver, but that one linebacker I couldn't get the hard sell correctly on went to Illinois. For our class of 20 players, this one is pretty similar to our last one, but we had a lot more 4-stars. I'm surprised that it's ranked lower. And just like last year, I've been able to find a lot of star devs. What I want to find, though, is an elite dev, which we got. And I wish I could say this team for next year was as good as the ones we've had previously, but it looks like it's going to struggle a little bit. That is far from ideal, since it is time for us to make the move from the MAC over to the Big Ten. There's going to be 19 teams in this conference now. And you know what? I think to balance things out, it only makes sense that we also throw the other Notre Dame in here. So now there are 2 Notre Dames in one conference. There is something else I'm a bit worried about, though. One of the challenges is sign a top 3 prospect. We have to have a top 3 prospect interested in playing for us first. And that's simply not happened yet. Looking at our class numbers, if we're going to finish out these final 3 years in the rebuild, we need to have a pretty large class coming in. So I'm really hoping we have no issue signing the top 10 players that we're targeting. There's a few gyms on here I'd love to land. And when it comes to our schedule, it's not going to be easy. We open up the year at Missouri. We have 9 Big Ten games as well, with Notre Dame being on there. But it's time for me to make a decision at the quarterback position, and it is going to be starting Jason Morse over Elijah Morris. At first, that might not make much sense. Elijah Morris just led us to a national championship appearance, but he's a senior. He has 76 deep throw accuracy. And if I wanted somebody out there that couldn't hit a moving target, I'd just put sophomore Jason Morse out there. His stats are a little bit better, and he can also improve. The other option we could consider moving forward is Logan McGill. He's a true freshman, but he has uncapped accuracy, basically. And he also has 93 speed, but we'll see how Jason Morse does in his first game against the Tigers. It looks like it's a win if Miles Chun is going for stats like this. And I love what we did on the offensive side of the ball, but our defense gave up 28. Before we get too much farther into the year as well, since we have coach points to spend, I am going to max out our running back tactician tree. It was a matter of time before we did it. And our next opponent's the Fighting Illini. We beat them as well, 31-21, but it's time to start considering which 3 games I'm going to hop into, and I think at the moment it's got to be Maryland and then USC and Washington. What that means, though, is we have one more matchup to sim before we can play the Terrapins. And the longer we're able to stay undefeated, the better it's looking that we're going to make the playoffs again. Surprisingly, we even have a lead on every single prospect that we're going after, which I wasn't expecting since a couple of the players at the top of our board are 5-stars. I really think that this last class is coming together extremely well. And then on the field versus Maryland, we're in a spot where if we can stop them, we'll win this game. That's right. With about 20 seconds left, we are up by 7 points, but they have gotten down inside the red zone. They're coming close. And this is a huge 4th and goal where they might just try to scramble instantly, and we had a quarterback spy ready. That's how you close out a game versus a top 15 team. I'm expecting us to win these, but we still have a lot of games in front of us. There's plenty of undefeated teams in the Big Ten, and I can only play so many of them, which means we have a lot of matchups to sim. Unfortunately, we weren't able to win them all. Jacksonville State actually gave us a good battle, and then Notre Dame took us down. The other Notre Dame beat us, but where that leaves us with a few games left in the season is number 6 in the country at 8-1. We also play the 2 teams in the Big Ten that are still undefeated in conference play in the next 2 weeks, so that's going to be some top 5 matchups. And recruiting's gone pretty well besides losing a 4-star to Georgia Tech. That's embarrassing, but we had him on a visit versus Notre Dame, and he didn't like that we lost. There's still Glenn Yeast, the number 8 player in the country, and another 5-star we're going after, alongside some of these 4-stars to bring up our class more. But right now, the focus needs to be winning against undefeated number 1 USC. This is a rematch of last year's playoff game, except we have the home field advantage, and we're about to go out in front. They've bottled up the run pretty well, but when you're down in this area, area, you gotta hand it off. And that gives us a 1-point lead with 4 minutes left in the game. It doesn't mean much though, because it took them like 3 plays to score a touchdown. And then they ran straight through us for the 2-point conversion, but look who's out there at quarterback. It's Morris. It is not the guy I put out there. Do you know why that is though? It's because we are suffering from so many injuries, including Jason Morse dislocating his knee. But it's not the end of the world. Morris is a senior. He's been here before, and he's about to throw a pick. I think we're gonna go for the 2-point conversion if we get into the end zone. I'm expecting us to finish off this drive still. It's not like we're a bad team. And Elijah Morris isn't a bad quarterback either. We just need him to have enough time to find somebody, and we almost did. That play just took a long time to develop. The drag right here is taking a while. And we're gonna instantly get this throw off just to keep the clock running. But that might have been a mistake. Only 10 seconds left in this game now, where it all comes down to this play. They have man-to-man coverage out there. We're gonna get by it, and now we have a 2-point conversion to go for. Now, normally, I'd go out a wildcat for this, but I feel like I've used that formation too many times recently to close out games, so we use the jet touch pass, and we're gonna be short. I thought we got into the end zone right there. USC's gonna beat us, and I can't even be upset. That was an incredible goal line hold. It was a great effort, and it's not like that loss is gonna drop us far down the polls. In fact, we moved up 1 spot in the college football playoff one, but we are out of the conference championship race. If we're gonna lock in our spot to the playoffs, though, we should beat Washington. But honestly, we could probably lose this game too and still find our way in. Of course, it's better for us if we just beat them, which I think we're gonna do. We have a 2-possession lead here, and we had our starting quarterback back for this matchup, which makes a big difference. If we pick up this 3rd down, I would say it is completely over, and the finish to that one's not going to be as exciting as what we had against USC a week ago. To end this season, we have 6-5 Wisconsin on our schedule. They're 90 overall, and I figured we'd have no issues against them, but all those injuries are holding our team back. It's been a pretty rough ending to the year in recruiting as well. We lost out on a couple 4-stars that I thought we were going to sign, though we did get 5-star Glenn Yeast, and we still have another 2 seasons to make our run at a Big Ten championship. I am a little bit surprised though that there are players that want to leave our school, and I have ended up firing both of our coordinators so we can get some tacticians in here. I will say, if the Trojans quarterbacks win in the Heisman Trophy, I no longer feel too bad for losing to USC. Our playoff game's going to be against Clemson. But back to the coordinator stuff. I want to find guys that are tacticians to boost up our overall, and they're just not there. However, after looking for a little bit, I did find a defensive coordinator, and that should help us in future seasons because our path in this playoffs makes it almost impossible to win it all. Jason Morse wasn't that good for us this season either. I almost want to make a last-second quarterback change, hoping that that can just spark this team to perform better. And worst case scenario, we're going to get our true freshman quarterback some incredible experience. There is absolutely no reason to throw him out to the wolves here, putting him in against Clemson. But this is a roster that somehow didn't have a single first-team All-American, so we're going to have to roll the dice and go for the new QB. It might not work, but I feel like it's our best chance at winning 4 games straight against some really good teams. And I should probably mention our defense has showed up in this first half, not our offense. I don't know why it took me so long to realize how terrible of a decision this was, but I never made a quarterback switch in this game. We find ourselves down by 10 with just a few minutes left. And of course, he was not ready for this moment. We have to somehow pick up this 4th and 10 using his speed. He still doesn't get enough. And I have set us up for failure for no reason at all, though we're about to force a sack. We get the fumble, and they're going to have to attempt like a 60-yard field goal, which they're missing. Is this where the comeback starts? Probably not, especially if they're getting in like that. But I'm just going to be hopeful and throw up a ball at some point. Here, we're able to get a 1st down. Justice Davis goes to the sideline. And we will see if our corner route works out here or not. It's just out of reach. That pretty much sums up this entire game. Our quarterback was not ready for the moment, even if we do start to come back. But we had a tough path in the playoffs no matter what, and we're back within a possession. Now, I do think it's worth it for us to go for the onside kick, especially if they're going to miss the football. And I have finally recovered one of those in a video. It has been such a long time of just failure after failure. It only took me about 5 seconds to almost ruin the moment, though if we get this ball out, we're going to have a 1st down. And Clemson is actually choking right now. We really don't need to do that much more. A field goal will at least send this to overtime. I believe that we can get a touchdown out of this, though, especially if they're going to leave all that open space out there on the field, making one of their guys miss. And here we go. 30 seconds left on the clock. We know our running back's there, but we're also going to run for the 1st. I don't think any audibles are going to work at this point in the game. We might be able to escape this. And it just dawned on me that since we recovered the onside kick, we still had timeouts left. That's going to allow us to run the football, getting that touchdown. And what did I say? The wild card's at least able to help us get one win in the playoffs. We'll see what happens against Oregon, especially now that he is a little bit more experienced. It still feels like this run at a title is pretty hopeless, especially because if we get past Oregon, we probably have to play USC. But we're just going to keep on pushing and see what we can make happen. Fortunately for us, this game is not going to be on the road. But I nerfed our offense with the quarterback that we have out there on the field. I can admit that now. He has done absolutely nothing for the Ducks, to the point where we have to look to have another miraculous comeback. But if he somehow pulls this off, it's going to be very hard to justify benching him for the next game. That's why I am not sure what to do in this situation with him out there. We've just struggled too much in this game so far, but we are going to get down to the 5. And this is our moment to shine. We're going to hand it off and take our touchdown. It wasn't that simple though. Apparently we were a bit short. And I'm just going to go for the 2-point conversion now. This play has yet to fail me in this video, and it's not going to here. Now is where we have to stop the run though. And I can stack the box, I can run commit, but we still have to make the tackle. I think we're going to be all right. It's 3rd and 13, and we have somebody there to bring him down. We're fine. But what are we going to do with this final minute and 13 seconds? That's the real question, where our tight end is already creating some separation. We're past midfield now. I'm hoping that we can get open right here. Throw this on the run. That is a perfect pass. And now we need to hand this ball off, but I don't want to score a touchdown yet. You know exactly how I'm going to handle the end of this game. We're going to burn through the clock. We're going to take it in, except there's a bit of a problem. Apparently we weren't in the end zone right there, so we have to score here. This is how you pull off a comeback. The extra point is going to go in. And what am I supposed to do at the quarterback position? The only time we had offensive success is when I'm controlling him. But for any part of the game that we sim, we struggle, and we're about to play USC. The last time that we played them, it came down to a 2-point conversion. And this has nothing to do with the playoffs, but I finally found our offensive coordinator who's also a tactician. We're just going to continue to roll with our wild card at quarterback though. We might pull off another crazy comeback. And if we do, I want him to be who's out there on the field with us. It has certainly been another interesting performance out of Logan McGill though. At the moment, he's thrown 3 interceptions, and we're going for it on a 4th and 5 that we're not getting. But you can also see that our defense hasn't played as well as they have in previous games, and we've needed that against the Trojans. Are we catching this? That's a big deal that we were able to reel that ball in. We're also going to have the slam. But apparently they got to us quick enough. It is now 3rd and goal, and it's out of reach. That was such a simple pass. You just can't miss it in that scenario. Please hit the slam. And I don't really love how aggressive we're being on 3rd and 4, but they're throwing it to us. And why didn't that other defensive back make a play on the ball? He was right there. I feel like I have to blame our defense for this loss. We've done a lot of things right on offense. And it's not technically over yet. We can just see the writing on the wall. This throw is so far behind, which puts us on a 4th and 10 with the game on the line. Where's the blocking? I'm not sure I've ever failed this many times in the playoffs at winning a championship with a team. This roster's been good enough. But the missing piece I haven't had yet is a bunch of tacticians, and our coordinators are finally both that. The Big Ten is also just extremely difficult. We lost to the national champion again. And one of our young linebackers that's super talented on this team, Josh Key, wants to transfer out, but we got him to stay. That's a big deal. There's a lot of seniors projected for the NFL leaving once again. We're going to convince our junior running back to come back too. And Elijah Morris never developed the way I was hoping he would. We still have 2 players we have to convince to not transfer out of the program, and it looks like one of them won't. At the end of the day, Notre Dame College has become a really good school at football. We're just not winning a championship. And I feel like by now we don't really need to make many more additions to the team, but the transfer portal could be very useful. You never know what the overall of these guys is going to end up being, but if they're a 4-star transfer, I can predict around an 85. And as I was doing some of the hard sells, it really stuck out to me how good some of our school grades have gotten, but then others just haven't improved. There are certain things that just aren't always fixable. We did sign every transfer besides this cornerback that we lost to Syracuse. And I feel like it's been a while since we found some elite development players, but 2 of the 3 5-stars that we signed have that development. This is also the best class we've had by far, but it won't matter with only a couple seasons left. And I really don't know how I'm going to explain to our starting quarterback, Jason Morse, why he got benched in the playoffs last year, but he's up to an 89, so he has to start for this roster that's a 92 overall. And I thought I was going to have to cut at least a few players, but our roster size is perfectly under the limit. With 2 seasons left, though, we still have not signed a top 3 prospect, except the #1 defensive tackle is interested in coming here. And that's the one player that we will be recruiting, as I'm also putting any points that we can get into this this so we can put 75 hours into him. With our remaining 15 coach points, I'm going to get tier 4 locked in, so all of our defense is going to start the fourth quarter hot in close games. And taking a look at our season schedule, I think we can start the year 5-0, but the farther we scroll down, the harder it's going to get. Everything's lining up to sign the #1 player in the country, though. We're #1 on his board. And I'm just going to simulate our first 5 games. If our right end is putting up numbers like 5 sacks, I think we're going to be okay. And Jason Morse came out with 6 touchdowns, but it was against an FCS school. I also think I can basically confirm signing Tryon's a lock because we know his 3 motivations, we're going to be able to pitch those, and we also have him coming for a visit in week 6. Sure enough, we're going to get this pop-up, which means we have done it. We have finally signed a top 3 recruit, though we still need to get 3 more All-Americans. We need to win a championship. And considering the fact that we lost to Eastern Michigan 38-35, it might not be that easy. Those sim scores don't have me feeling good about this roster. We also can't play against Michigan. And that's because there's other ranked schools coming up on our schedule, but we handled them pretty easily. After we face the Fighting Illini, I think it'll be time for us to hop into our first game. We're headed into it. We're going to be 6-1, the #2 team in the country, and I want to play against Washington, Wisconsin, and USC. There is no reason that we should miss out on the Big Ten championship like we did last season. But in order to make it happen, we do have to win these matchups. There is just something about this team, though, that doesn't perform the way I think it should. And I think it has to do with the fact I'm using a new playbook. I mean, we're going to go up by a point against the Huskies with 1.5 minutes left. But after not getting the 2-point conversion, the pressure is on and we couldn't get in time. If they're able to get into field goal range, we're going to lose this game. They threw it right at us. And I feel like the only way we're going to survive this is if we got a sack. We need them to miss this kick extremely badly. That's what we're going to do. Making them go for it on 4th and 17. We got the sack I was hoping for, and they're not going to have enough. It was very far from a pretty win, but that's how you close out a game. And I think it's pretty clear that Jason Morse really isn't that good at quarterback. By this point in his career, he has maxed out his skill caps. His accuracy won't get any higher. And that's why I wanted to get Logan McGill involved a little bit more, but he isn't talented enough at the moment. We need him to keep on improving too, and sim against Northwestern, I'm sure we won. Beating them 35-10, but these last 3 games are going to really decide our season. In a perfect world, we just end up winning all 3 of them. But I remember what Wisconsin did to us last year. They took us down. Before this game, I switched our playbook over, and that has helped out our offense greatly. Plus, we've played better defensively. So I could no longer be stubborn if I wanted to see this team succeed. As you can see, we're going to win these games a lot more now. We had a 14-point lead with a few minutes left. We got a stop there, and we're able to just run out the clock. But that means we might not have as many competitive matchups moving forward. I always like going for a good comeback, and I will say, it is so dumb that your playbook matters so much. And it takes away from all the different play styles and playbooks in the game when you know you can't sim a match and win at the same rate if you use a certain playbook. EA's had it in Madden for years like that, though. They've done the same thing with College Football 25. And if you take a look over at the Heisman Watch, you're going to see that Jason Morse is actually up there in the running. With our new offense, though, we beat Wisconsin. We dropped 35 points on Notre Dame while they only scored 7. That can be a bit confusing looking at those names above each other. But Notre Dame College came out on top, and it's time to see if we can beat USC. Even if they're on the other side of the US, it's turned into a rival for us. We're a lock for the Big Ten championship. So we're basically just playing this one for bragging rights. Sure enough, as we approach the end of this first half, we're in a pretty good position. We should have had a touchdown there, but our quarterbacks are all missing their throws. We're going to take the check down and miss again. Due to getting no yards there, we weren't even able to make a field goal from that distance, but we have made sure that we have stayed out in front of the Trojans. And then in the final 90 seconds, I'm basically looking to just run up the score since Morse is in the Heisman race. One way or another, I want to get him this touchdown. We hang on to the ball, and I think we're finally ready to win it all. If we can't do it with this team, there's going to be no excuses. And I guess we'll find out how we do against Penn State in the Big Ten championship. Without needing to do recruiting this season, there was like nothing else going on. Very easy to get through the year. But now we have to make sure that we're taking home the Big Ten championship instead of the Nittany Lions. What I'm starting to realize, though, is I might have been too confident in this team because we find ourselves down by 14 with 7 minutes left until this field goal. I'm not the biggest fan of kicking right there, but if we can get a quick stop, it's going to be worth it. We've picked them off with Bigsby. I almost wanted to pitch it back right there. It was not worth the risk because we have the speed either way to return it. And all of a sudden, we're right back in this game. For the 2-point conversion, we got 5 wide out there. I basically just have to pick a hitch and throw it to them. And after stopping Penn State again, I think we're going to have no issues finishing off this drive as well, as that is a great throw. Jason Morse is trying to win his Heisman Trophy. Trophy, I'm gonna let him run it in. And eventually, he's got to get the quarterback sneak. We'll see if that's gonna be enough to win him the Heisman. But it would definitely help his case if we were able to beat Penn State. I can't believe I bit down on that, and that was a laser. Literally perfect execution right there. Not much that I felt like I could have done. We're gonna step up and scramble, make one guy miss or not. And we have a minute to get ourselves into field goal range, though we might just have a touchdown. I know it's gonna be off target. It is so frustrating dealing with those inaccurate passes. This is also a terrible read. Why would I throw it there? I knew it the second I hit the button and the route didn't just glitch right by, but it normally does, which is why I thought it was gonna work. We're completely fine though. It's 3rd and 12. They hand it off. We make the tackle. And we've gotten it back with 30 seconds left, but look at how far they just backed up their corners. They were terrified. I'm just hoping that they give us a man-to-man look, which we got right here. This is what I was looking for on that interception play. Steven goes to the 1. And this is it. About 10 seconds left on the clock. I'm gonna probably roll out and just throw this football away. What I really like though is the idea of throwing to one of our hitch routes. We gotta fight our way into the end zone, and we shouldn't have gotten a touchdown there. We should have lost to Penn State. I have to apologize to Jason Morse. I should have never benched him in the playoffs last year. I believe that he deserves the Heisman Trophy after that. And talk about an effort in the 4th quarter to help us come back. We've also won the Big Ten right after joining it last year. And this isn't the first time I've won Coach of the Year. I am more concerned about the Heisman Trophy though. It's going to be another Defensive Coordinator of the Year too. But here we go. Heisman Trophy comes after this, and it is going to be Jason Morse. Nope, it's Player of the Year. With those 12 interceptions, I'm not sure they're going to give him the Heisman Trophy. I mean, that's a lot of turnovers, but he does win it. And our sophomore right end had 19 sacks, but he started the year with 5 of them. Kevin Wakefield out of the slot also won the best receiver in the country. We're taking everything. And this is where the award system is a little stupid. We should not win the best tight end with stats like this. It's only because we're the #1 team in the country, though 6 interceptions, you probably deserve to win best defensive back of the year. Are the awards over? No, they're not. We had another kid with 21 sacks. This is a rare time where I feel like I have to look at our defensive stats just based off of some of the numbers I was seeing. And I don't think we would have ever won the Heisman if we didn't join the Big Ten. Rushing wise, we almost had 1,000 yards on the ground. Receiving wise, just 1,000-yard receiver. But it's been a very solid season. And how did we not win first team All-American at the quarterback position if we won the Heisman Trophy? We had no first team All-Americans. What? This is actually a joke. The Heisman winner wasn't even a second team All-American. This system's broken. In fact, somehow the Heisman winning quarterback wasn't even the best quarterback in the Big Ten. And I want to make this very clear. We had 4 of the 12 Player of the Year finalists. You can call me a cheater all that you want, but we have completed having 5 first-team All-Americans. We had over 5 award winners in this rebuild. We definitely deserve to have that knocked off. And I'm sorry, but that just doesn't make any sense. This is what the playoff bracket looks like, where we 100% got the worst draw out of the first round as the 1 seed. But if you look at the rest of the teams remaining, the only ones that worry me are Wisconsin and Texas A&M. We've already beat the Badgers once, but now we have to beat them for a second time. And in a perfect world, we would just walk our way into the national championship game. The thing is, it's not a perfect world. I can pretty confidently say that, but we've been running up the score against the Badgers. I'm gonna try and make this throw. I don't know what is going on here, but the wild camera angle wasn't going to stop us from catching a touchdown, and we started up 28-0. We were not going to lose to the Badgers. You see how our defense has just been flat out embarrassing them? I've been having a blast. This is the final play of the game, and I was hoping we could pick up another turnover, but we're still going to win by 24. That's going to leave us with just 2 more wins that we need to get that national championship and save Notre Dame College. It looks like the next team that's going to get in our way is Syracuse, and if we had any coach points, we could spend them in the program builder tree. Even with all our success, they haven't been coming as fast, though. Look at this. Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State both beat the Power 4 teams they play. What that means is this game against Syracuse should be harder than the national championship. And we better not mess this up because we've been set up absolutely perfectly. Just like our last game, we opened up the game running up the score. Ever since then, we haven't had to do as much offensively, just hang on to our lead. And it literally took just a playbook switch for us to have a lot more success. Next year, we're going to go with a different playbook because I want to see if this team could win it all, even though we wouldn't have the best one. At the moment, it is so clear to me that we are not going to fall to any of these teams. We simply have too good of a roster. But that's with the Clemson playbook. What if we switched it back over to Marshall, which is what I had it on before earlier this year whenever we started losing games that we really shouldn't have. I'm even going to take that risk of it potentially costing us a national championship. But that's because I really don't see us losing to Jacksonville State, who already has 3 losses. Let's just go ahead and make sure that we finish saving Notre Dame College. As with one more win, the Falcons will not be disappearing forever. So far, we have just flown down the field. They've decided that they can try and press our receivers, and I have to take advantage of the free touchdowns. We probably didn't even need to do that though, because like expected, they weren't able to keep up with us. And this was the easiest championship run I've had in a video for a while, but you have to think, it took us like 4 or 5 years of failing to get this. We made it to a lot of playoffs before taking home the trophy. And in the 9 years I've spent with the Falcons, more than half of them have been over 10-win seasons. We have to answer the question though, are we going to be able to run it back, get back-to-back championships? One of our best right ends that won a bunch of defensive awards is willing to come back to school for whatever reason. But maybe Notre Dame College has that good NIL money now. Looking at some of these graduates, it does hurt to lose a couple of them. But we have so many talented players now that that's not going to affect us much. We're also bringing in the #1 player in the country. I'll look at the transfer portal for a second just to see if there's anybody that we'd really want to get. Derek Sanders might help, but I decided that we didn't need him, and not even having star dev is very disappointing for the best player. Either way though, we accomplished everything with Notre Dame College that I wanted to. And there's not many times in my rebuilds where we get to the point where I can build a 95 overall roster or better. The best part is after encouraging some players to transfer, I can get that to go up even more. So headed into this season, we're going to officially be a 97 overall, and since we've already won a championship, my plan is to sim the entire year. We're about to see how a 97 overall team does with the Marshall playbook. Is it going to be enough to make it to the playoffs, to make it to the Big Ten championship? And I'd really like to think so. We're about to see what our record's going to be, 10-2, number 8 in the country, which is actually going to put us in 3rd place in our conference, so we're going to have to play 4 playoff games to win a championship. It's always a Michigan school that finds a way to beat us. This season, Michigan State. The other loss came to the other Notre Dame. And there is no way the Eds came back and put up 26 sacks. He is averaging 2 sacks a game, best defensive player in the country. I'm sure he's going to win every single defensive award. While we've gotten Virginia Tech for our first playoff game. Now, out of curiosity, I had to see how many first-team All-Americans we had. At least we were able to get 4 throughout this video. We still should have had at least 1 last year, because at this point we've won like 10 awards. But with the Marshall playbook, it also affects your sim stats, so you're gonna see our numbers don't look as good. I mean, last year Jason Morse literally had twice as good of numbers. He won a Heisman Trophy, and this season we could turn into a first-round exit. I'm not too invested in this team though. We're gonna sim all these games because I figured we'd lose at some point, but not in the first round of the Hokies. I just did a video on NCAA Football 14 though. It's not like the sim system on that game was any better, and at least I was still able to have all that success with a Division II school. But if you made it this far in the rebuild, go ahead, check out another one of mine as well.